people, nice to see you here. Today I'm going to give you the grand tour of my sewing room, so come on in. So welcome to the Wandering Bobbin headquarters. So I thought I would start off by telling you a little bit about my previous sewing space and therefore what I wanted out of this space. So you can really just get a sense of what I was going for. And if any of it resonates with you, it might inspire your sewing space as well. Go ahead and use the chapters along the scroll bar to skip to anything in particular that you want to see. I'm going to chatter on for a little while. So you probably remember my old sewing space was up in our loft in our old apartment that I shared with my husband for his work from home space. I had half the loft, a little bit of storage, a table. I did all my cutting at the kitchen counter. Wasn't very functional. I mean, it was okay, but it was a pretty small space. So you can imagine how excited I was when I found out I was going to get my very own sewing room, an entire room to devote just to sewing. So what I wanted from this space, I wanted a peaceful space, white, limited color, so that like fabrics can speak to me without like the noise, closed storage, kind of like an element of simplicity because too much stuff around me is not inspiring for me. It just makes my brain kind of crazy. I want it to be ergonomic and functional. I didn't want to spend too much money. So I wanted it to just be a place where my mind could be open to the creativity. And I also did not take into account filming. So I set it up just as a sewing room. So the room is 11 by 10 feet. Pretty decent size. It's all mine for sewing. It has a closet, it has a built-in cupboard, and it has one window. So with all that in mind, let me start by telling you about the overall layout and the basic furniture pieces, and then I will talk all about the decorative elements. So the number one thing that I decided early on was that I wanted a giant cutting table. I didn't have a real cutting table before, and so it's been the one thing that I have always wanted. So for a cutting table, it was very important to me that it was the right height for my height, so it was ergonomic. I wanted the cutting mats to cover the entire top. I wanted some storage underneath in it, and I didn't want it to be too expensive. So that meant I was going to have to cobble it together myself. In terms of the size, I wanted it as big as I could make it while still being able to access all four sides and function in the room when it's pushed up against the wall, but also be able to roll it out to the middle of the room if necessary. So after looking all over the internet and seeing what people were doing, I got 2 of the IKEA Kallax shelves. And after mocking it all up, I decided to get the legs that go with the Kallax shelves so I could get the right height. That just helped for my height. And bought 2 desktops to put on top. The fit's not perfect because I pretty much decided just to go with the closest thing that IKEA could offer me. So my husband actually added some brackets and supports under one of the table tops. And because I'm overly cautious and wasn't sure it was going to work out in the end, I made him use only the existing holes that were in the pieces. So I'm very proud of the fact that you could disassemble this whole table and repurpose all of the pieces. So nothing is ruined if it doesn't work out. Then, of course, I wanted the entire top to be covered with cutting mats. So I figured out how to make a combination of mats from my favorite mat brand on Amazon. And somehow that worked out. It got pretty close to the right size. There's like an inch or so of overhang on one side. And so my husband added a piece to help support that. And then I also added these clamps because I wanted to make sure it stayed in place and I didn't want to put any adhesive on the tabletops. So voila, this is my cutting table. I also found some wheels on Amazon that would make sure that the height is what I wanted it to be. So far I've mostly used it up against the wall, but I love that you can also pull it out to the center of the room if you need to. Oh, and there's even extra space on the back side that I'm not even using. The Cadillac's on the other side is totally empty. So I think I kind of overestimated how much storage I would need just because I came from such a small space. I thought I had so much stuff. And then I got it all in this room and it's actually not that much stuff. So in the side of the Kallax that faces outwards, I have these bins and I keep one for fabric scraps, one for paper scraps, one for work in progress projects, and then all of my paper rolls fit across. So they take up a couple cubbies and it kind of just works out perfect. So then I have my ironing station over here. I have a cart for all of the ironing accoutrements. I have an Alex drawer set with all of my zippers, elastic, needles, etc., etc., etc. I have this long IKEA table for both of my machines, my regular sewing machine and my serger. And then I have a little desk, closet, mirror, which came with the house, and this cabinet for storage. For the decor, I wanted to keep it fairly minimalistic. I put the pegboard up that I had in my sewing loft for easy access to most of my tools. Above the pegboard, I just put some shelves that I already had for decoration. This is a vintage magazine cover that my sisters gave me one year for my birthday. I have some vintage books and some seasonal flowers in a little vase. And then of course I have my thread rack, salt lamp for ambiance, and I knew I wanted a design wall of sorts, and I saw on Pinterest this idea of like a floor to ceiling bulletin board, and I loved the drama of that idea, and I decided instead to make it an entire wall horizontally because I had so much usable wall space and I had this space above my ironing station. So in order to accomplish that without spending a fortune on bulletin boards, I bought the foam boards with the cork on one side and the foam on the other. They're like 20 by 30, and I put them side by side across the wall, and then I cut the last one so it fit perfectly. And so obviously they are flimsier than regular bulletin boards, but I wasn't really looking for a permanent solution anyways, or anything that was like super heavy duty, since I rent and I don't really intend on like that heavy of usage anyways. I just wanted to be able to pin some things up whenever I felt like it. And so I really like the visual impact that it has on the wall, and it's also super functional, so I love that. I also incorporated in this a place to put any pattern pieces of any patterns that I am currently working on. So they have a place to live and be while the project is in progress. So at this end, I decided to put up a magnetic strip like the ones they have for knives in the kitchen right above the bulletin boards, and that way I can just hang the patterns up with the magnets out of the way, but not too out of the way. So that lives on this side, and then the rest of the board is for whatever I feel like needs to be up on a bulletin board. The only other wall that has wall space is the one behind the cutting board, and again I wanted something minimalist, nothing too distracting. So I decided to frame these black and white sewing related pattern prints. I bought the digital prints on Etsy. I had them printed on Shutterfly, and then I just bought some like cheap frames on Amazon and hung them up. And I thought it would be a cool way to incorporate the technical nature of sewing into my creative space and kind of honor that sort of history of our craft through time and how it's changed with technological advancements and innovations. So most of the storage is in the closet because, like I said, I wanted closed storage. I wanted as much out of the way as possible. You may recognize this gray dresser. I have patterns in here, lesser used sewing notions. I have this dress form here I can pull out if I want to. Filming equipment, more storage. So yeah, most of the storage is in here. There's also built-in bookshelves on the sides. So I have my books, my vintage Singer sewing machine in there. So excitingly, this room came with a built-in cabinet, which is perfect for storing fabric. So I keep all my fabric in there, and it actually goes back quite a ways, and so there's more room behind all the fabric. I tried to like keep it in a single layer in the front so I can actually see what I have. So that is my sewing room. I'm gonna go ahead and leave links to whatever I can find in the description box down below. It's all mostly IKEA and Amazon. So if you're interested in anything, go ahead and take a look there. If you have any questions, let me know. If I didn't cover anything, let me know. And thanks so much for going on this tour with me. I will see you guys next time.